Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be repotting my beautiful Phalaenopsis Sweet Memory. But before jumping into that, I want to pick the winners of the giveaway. And oh my gosh, first of all, thank you guys so much for participating. I wish I could send something to all of you. There were 110 people that entered. What I did was I put everyone on an Excel spreadsheet and randomly picked using this number generator. And the first winner is Vivid Captures. Congratulations. The next one is number 2. So the next one is Aaron Hassan 7026. And then the last winner is number 30, which is Linda Ann B. So congratulations to you three. I truly wish I could send everyone something, but in the future we'll do something else and we'll do future giveaways. I want to thank everyone for participating. And for the winners, just send me an email. The details are down below. You'll be getting some little stars. I divided some other cattleyas, and I'll be sending some full-size cattleyas as well, and some Hoya clippings too. So I hope you enjoy it. And I just want to thank everyone so much for all of the support. Anyhow, jumping right into this repot, let's talk about this Phalaenopsis Sweet Memory. So gosh, I've been dealing with spider mites on this orchid for 2 years, and it's been a little stressed because I have been using a lot of neem oil on it, and I think I used a little too much, and it pushed out this Basal Keiki. So I know it's stressed, but I think it's going to be fine. We have a good handle on it. I got rid of the spider mites so you could see all of the damage on those leaves. So I'm going to walk you through repotting it and talk about the Basal Keiki and how I dealt with this orchid over time. So the root system on this is really good. I didn't repot it because it was blooming for quite a long time. And now the thing with spider mites is that it could be so persistent. I had issues with this for 2 years. You could tell from the damage. And the thing with spider mites is that they suck the sap from the leaves, and it does stress the plant out. Now I have everything ready to repot this, but because I treated it with neem oil, it leaves a waxy film on the leaves, and I think that stressed this out a little bit too. So what I'm doing here is I'm watering this orchid just to get the roots a little bit more pliable. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray some soapy water on the leaves because I left this waxy film from the neem oil. I think I used a little bit too much. And when you use too much neem oil, it could block the light and the photosynthesis and cause a little bit more stress. So now that I'm repotting it, I believe the spider mites are gone. I'm going to show you shortly how you can check for that. But I want to get rid of any waxy residue. So I just took some Dawn dish detergent in water, and I'm just spraying it all along the leaves, and that's going to help get that extra film of neem oil off. And you're going to want to make sure you go under the leaves as well. That's where you get spider mites too. So if you treat the tops of the leaves, sometimes you'll miss that you'll have spider mites on the bottom of the leaves as well. But this is just to get rid of any extra residue. You want to be careful with the crown. You'll see that it's getting a little bit wet, but I'm going to blot it dry. You don't want to keep water in there or water directly on the crown, but right now that we're cleaning this off, it's okay that a little bit of water is getting in there. We're going to take care of drying that as we're repotting, but generally that's a very sensitive area. So this orchid responded to being stressed, I do think it was the neem oil, by pushing out that Basal Keiki. And you know, sometimes when orchids are stressed, they'll do that. Sometimes even when they're healthy, they'll do that. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think this orchid is going to be fine. It's just had this persistent issue for 2 years. So we're going to double check and make sure everything's gone. I'm going to watch this very closely. I don't want these spider mites to come back. And you saw I just blotted the crown. So in order to check for spider mites, what I like to do is I like to take a white paper towel, and I'll run it through the leaves, and I'm going to see if there's any streaks of brown or red, and then I look really, really closely to see if there's any residue left over. I do this a lot just to make sure If you see something, sometimes I'll run my finger through it, but the best way is to take like a white cloth or a white paper towel, and that'll tell you if you still have spider mites. I ran the paper towel through it, and I did not find any, thankfully. So I think it's gone. Getting that waxy neem oil off should help a ton. And I'm just going to keep monitoring every month or so. I'm just going to make sure that I check it, make sure that there's no spider mites, and I'll just do the soapy water and a tiny bit of neem oil as well. Now I took it out of that pot. It's got a beautiful root system. It's in mostly sphagnum moss. I believe I just topped it off with some bark. But when you have a root system like this, that's this established, oftentimes when you water, it dries fast because those roots are absorbing a lot of water. They're absorbing a lot of nutrients. This tends to be a heavy feeder. It's a phal, and a lot of times it needs a lot of fertilizer. So once it's established in the pot, I want to make sure I feed it well as it's pushing out new roots. Now you'll see that we still have some new root tips in there, and I just avoided repotting it because it was blooming. And this is one of those orchids that I cut the spike off last year, and it rebloomed from that same spike. So it was reblooming for a long time. I do wish I repotted it sooner, but it's okay. We were dealing with those spider mites, and I wanted to make sure that I got rid of them before I handled this. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to gently get this sphagnum moss off. I want to be very gentle with the roots, but again, the roots weren't very pliable. These are some thick roots, so a few of them got damaged, but there were very few dead roots here, which was kind of nice to see. Now, I really like this orchid. I got it as a birthday gift 3 years ago, and just look at these pretty flowers. They have a beautiful fragrance. It smells kind of like fruity peaches. It reminds me of the Viva La Juicy perfume. It's very beautiful, and it's grown tremendously in my care. And it was in a 4-inch pot that was not too deep. And it like the roots swallowed all of that moss up. They just grew around the pot. So this is quite a vigorous orchid. It's one of those Phalaenopsises. It's one of those Phalaenopsis that gets bigger over time, and just like my Aldi's Bear King, my Phalaenopsis bellina, it's one of those that as you have these orchids for over a period of several years, you're going to need larger and larger pots for them. And I wish I was prepared, because the biggest pot I had at this point was 6.5 inches, and I felt that I needed an even bigger pot for this. But I'll prepare for that next year and just anticipate that these phals are just going to keep getting bigger on me. So I'm just gently removing that moss. I topped it off with bark so it could cover any of the algae that grows on the top of the moss. It just looks a little bit better, but this orchid did just fine in sphagnum moss. Now I took a little cardboard box. I put everything in here just to make my life easier. Anytime I get a shipment from Chewy, I just save those little boxes, and that's where I've been getting my repots done. And it's pretty efficient. Anyhow, I ran some water through the roots, and I want to get rid of anything that's left over, and I'm inspecting for dead roots. So you guys know the deal. If it is firm, if it's green, it's alive, but if it's squishy, it's dead. I just removed the old spike off from last year, but I'm just looking for any like papery thin, dead, squishy roots, and I barely found any. I think I found like 1 or 2. But I'm looking around, and I'm just trying to find and see if there's anything I need to cut off. There wasn't much to find here, so we'll just fast forward. What I'm trying to do is I'm showing that I accidentally bent one of the roots, so I'd introduced a new wound there, which is unfortunate, but a lot of these roots were kind of wrapped together, so I'm trying to unravel them so they could grow more freely in their new pot instead of being so tight. I just want them to have maximal air between the roots. They tend to grow better that way versus being all wound up, if that makes sense. So I'm just slowly trying to unravel this little root ball. Like these roots kind of fused together when they grew. And they were very firm. They just weren't very easy to deal with. So I felt a little bad. Some of them got a little bit damaged, but that's inevitable. And when an orchid is stressed, I want to be very gentle. I want to be very careful. And what I'm doing is I'm adding some moss to the middle of the root ball here, just so that I can put it in the pot a little bit more easy. And this is a 6-inch pot. So it went from like this 4-inch pot, and I'm realizing that this 6-inch pot here might not be enough. So I was not very prepared. I didn't think that this would need such a big pot. So I ended up getting a pot that was slightly bigger. I have a 6.5-inch pot, which I wish I had like a 7 or 7.5-inch pot, but I moved it. I don't like these slatted pots at all because the roots tend to grow through them, especially the bottom, and it makes it more difficult. But this was slightly bigger than that last pot. I think it's going to be okay, but I really wish I had a slightly larger pot for this. Again, this is going to be fine. It's going to be a little bit root bound, but it's okay. It's going to absorb water properly, and this is going to be in 100% moss. And because it has so many roots, as I water it, it's going to absorb very quickly. It's going to probably dry out fast. When it was in the 4-inch pot, I would notice that it would absorb water very, very quickly. So that's a factor when you're using moss. Number one is your environment. If you live in a very humid environment, moss may not work well for you. But if you live in a climate like mine and you grow indoors where things are a little bit drier, moss tends to be way more forgiving. Now, if you have very few roots and something is swimming in soggy moss, it could rot the roots. So I like to keep things a little bit more fluffy. But in this case, this is a huge root ball. It's an extensive root system, and it's going to want to absorb as much moisture as possible for this orchid. So if this moss is a little bit tight, it's going to be way more forgiving because of that. So what I'm doing is I have moss in the middle of this pot, and now I'm getting some moss on the sides. I want to make sure that when I water, it's evenly moist. Again, I wish the pot was slightly larger, but it's okay. It's going to last in here a year. We have some air pockets in there. I'm trying to get a little bit more moss in there, so I ended up going back in and adding a tiny bit more. But this is what it looks like now that I'm done. And we have that Basal Keiki. It's not ready to be removed yet. We need to have some roots, so that might take a year or so. But we want to leave that Basal Keiki on there until the roots are nice and big. So we're going to reassess next year. I'll do an update video on this. And then maybe we could separate that keiki when it's ready. Hey, maybe in the spring we might be able to get that off, but we'll keep an eye on it. I ended up putting it in a beautiful decorative pot, and I put it in my bedroom next to an east-facing window. So I'm going to leave it here, and then I'll just monitor monthly, make sure those spider mites don't come back, and hopefully in the spring we'll be able to see how that Basal Keiki is doing, and we can remove it if it's ready. If not, we'll just leave it on there, no big deal, but I'm happy to have an extra plant. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.